Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Sitrep podcast, your forward operations base for all things military and historical wargaming. I am your host, Oriskany Jim, and today I thought we would try a bit of an unboxing and build video for some Warlord 28mm US Infantry for World War II bolt action. So I got this box as a Christmas gift from my brother, Chris. Quick shout out, Chris. Thanks very much for the great gift. We're going to go ahead and open this up on camera, maybe even put them together, and who knows, depending on how far we get, might even get some primer put on these figures. So let's go ahead and get this show started. We're going to go ahead and break the plastic. Yes, the box is still in the plastic, so there's no cheating. This box is brand new. We try to keep it real here on the Sitrep podcast for you guys. Alright, so as usual, we get some great information on the back of the box, a quick preview of what the sprues look like, some of the suggested poses that you can put together in this kit. Let's go ahead and crack the box and see what treasures await for us within. Alright, so we get some, not quite instructions, but at least some preview of the poses that are possible with the parts. A great itemized list, a very, very detailed itemized list of all the parts on all the sprues. So the first big sprue is pretty obvious. It's going to be some of the bases. There are some more bases. There's a total of 30 bases that come with this kit. So, wow, man, look at these sprues. A lot of figures and a lot of detail. Also in the box, it looks like you get some decals. So let's open up this little baggie that has some transfers in it. Oh wow, look at the tiny size of these things. Alright, let me see if I can get these into decent focus on my camera here. Okay, so it looks like you have some shoulder flags. I guess if you're building some paratroopers, like in Market Garden, you would use those. You also have some ranks. Let me see if I can get this a little bit closer. Come on, get in focus there. Alright, so yeah, we're looking at privates, corporals, specialists, and sergeants. You have some 1st US Infantry patches there. That's going to be the big red one. Further down, it looks like you're going to have some medics and some MPs if you choose to use those. And oh, check it out, they even have the little officer and NCO bars that you might want to put on the back of the helmets there. So a lot of great options here on this transfer sheet. Okay, let's get into the actual sprues here. We're going to start off with some options for the heads on your figures. You have some smooth helmets, you have some helmets with camouflage netting, both the standard scale netting and the much wider scale netting that you would sometimes see on American paratroopers. Heading over here to some of the options for canteens and other items on the equipment belt. You know what? Let me go ahead and turn this stupid sprue over so you can see it from the front. There you go. Alright, so we have some options for canteens, also canteens with fighting knives, some backpacks with the entrenchment tool included. You can see the handles coming out of the backpacks there. You've also got some backpacks without the entrenchment tools, some ammo pouches. There's our first arm, where it looks like someone's gesturing with a helmet, perhaps trying to urge his men forward. There's your first M1 Garand. You're going to see a lot of those on this sprue, trust me. Can't talk about the Americans in World War II without a Garand. There's a musette bag over somebody's shoulder. Looks like that guy is just throwing a grenade. Probably the Mark II Pineapple, if I'm remembering that correctly. Some more options for your weapons, not only a Garand, but also an M1 carbine there on the right. I like these parts where the two arms are on the same piece of plastic. That helps avoid the whole floating gun syndrome. Here's the infamous M3 grease gun. Looks like it's unloaded, but it really isn't. You see that piece down below where the other hand is holding onto the magazine, sometimes like a forward pistol grip. Ooh, check it out. We have a BAR, a Browning automatic rifle. You're definitely going to need a couple of those in your force. This looks like either a senior NCO or maybe a junior officer carrying a Thompson submachine gun. This was the much more expensive and much better submachine gun option for US forces. There were never quite enough of them. Also, we gave a lot of them away to our allies. So a lot of Americans had to settle for the M3 grease gun. Whoa, check it out, a shotgun. True trench sweeper shotgun. I'm definitely putting some of them in my force. I can tell you that right now for free. Also, the same thing with our bazookas, anti-tank rockets. Another Thompson. Okay, looks like we have a figure here that's going to be either carrying a new rocket for the bazooka or reloading it. Okay, this looks like a Springfield rifle. This is what was around before the M1 Garand. I would say this guy might be a sniper, but I don't see any scope on the Springfield. We've got some ammo bandoliers, some more ammunition pouches, and some additional options for heads for your figures, including guys who don't bother affixing their chin straps or who don't even bother putting on their helmet at all. Check that out. Along with the M1911 pistol, either out of the holster or in the holster. So besides the bases, just for figures, you get 5 complete sprues. And going through them here for the first time, yeah, it does look like all the sprues are identical. However, rest assured, you do get plenty of choices on the sprue for different equipment loadouts, and so on and so forth. So the box will make a total of 30 figures. That means you're going to get 6 figures per sprue. Let me quickly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, it looks like 6 basic poses per sprue in this kit. Alrighty, so let's get started. First thing, of course, is to cut the pieces out of the sprue. Of course, I won't make you suffer through all of this because, as you can see, there are a lot of pieces on the sprue. And again, you get 5 complete sprues in this box set. So I'm just going to clean off a little bit of the extra flash here and get this piece ready for assembly. Alright, so I got the basic pose cut out of the sprue. Now I'm going to go ahead and actually start to cut the base out of this little sprue here. So before, when I was showing the sprues, you saw one sprue with 5x5 bases for a total of 25. Again, this box kit will give you 30 figures, so they give you 5 additional bases on that little miniature sprue you saw a second ago. Go ahead and clean off a little bit of the flash. Alright, so I've got some arms picked out for this guy. I'm going to go ahead and use this 2-armed M1 Garand, start off with the basics, and put it together. So let's see where we stand here. Alright, so let's do the arms first. Ooh, that might have been a little bit too much glue there, but no worries, we can clean it off later. Doing this live on camera, so you guys know that I'm not cheating. Alright, now let's go ahead and slide that in there. And wow, that is nice and smooth. That went on there on the first try. Look at that. That's pretty good. I like that. I don't like fighting with my miniatures, I tell you. I guess none of us do. Alright, now I gotta go ahead and put this guy onto the base. Looks like he's at a light trot, advancing up to the line of contact. Let's see if we can pull that off. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and start making some choices here about what we're going to put on him for equipment. We've got 7 basic options here for his canteens. I'm going to go for that one there, where he's also carrying an ammo pouch. Now for a head. Hey, look at this guy. He's got little glasses on. I wonder if you're supposed to use that one for the bazooka guy. I know bazooka crewmen sometimes wore protective eye gear, but not always. Okay, you got a grand total of 9 different choices per sprue, so each sprue is going to give you 3 extra heads. I'm not going to use that one there. He's not even bothering to put his helmet on. I don't know if they call that a forge cap in the Army or what, but no thanks. Alright, I'm going to use as many of the camouflage net heads as I can, except for that one. That, I think, is almost exclusively a paratrooper look, so I'm going to avoid that one. But other than that, I'm going to use as much of the camouflage netting helmets as I can. I just think it's a cooler look. So, yeah, and then even some of these guys that don't bother to fix up their chin straps. Alright, so like I said, I have picked out a backpack with e-tool, canteen with ammunition pouch there on the end, and we have one of his heads there. Just for fun, I picked out the guy with the glasses, because, hey, whatever. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and get his equipment, his backpack set on there. Okay, that went on there pretty easily on the first try. Awesome. Hopefully I didn't put that on there too high so it interferes with his head. I don't think so, but I guess we'll find out. Oof, actually I probably should have put on this little bit of the equipment belt on there before I put on the backpack, because now his entrenchment tool handle is going to be in the way. Let me see if I can get around my own lack of planning there. You can also see where the top of the pouch there is kind of a concave pattern. I think it's meant to slide right underneath the main backpack there, kind of like that. I probably just should have done that in reverse order. Would have been a little bit easier, maybe a little bit of a better fit. But hey, this is my first figure. I also got a little bit of, like I said, a little bit of too much glue there on the arms. That glue dries like that flash white. That's okay, the primer's going to cover that. Alright, now let me go ahead and affix this guy's head. Try to make sure I put it on there frontward so the poor guy can tell which way he's going. Alright, it's kind of a ball and socket kind of a joint, so you can kind of pose the head a little bit. Case in point, right here, he's kind of looking down like he's staring at his bootlaces. Let me try to lift his head up and angle him a little bit so he's actually looking where he's advancing and perhaps more importantly where he's shooting. Alright, this guy is getting close. Okay, here is the first guy built, except I gotta put him on the base, of course. I'm also going to come back and add a few more items to his cartridge belt later on in the process. Alright, so I've gone ahead through the first sprue, and I've cut the other 5 basic poses out of the sprue, and I have attached them to a base. So we've got a guy there running up to the battle area, presumably. Looks like we've got a guy here in what might be more of a leadership pose. This guy might be more in a firing pose. He's got a little bit of a wider stance there. And yeah, these are the 6 basic poses that come with the box set on each of the sprues. This guy is crouching, clearly. Now, I was going to make this figure some sort of a either an NCO or an officer, you know, crouching behind the firing line, calling in an artillery mission, looking at a map, something like that. But I said, you know what, let me go ahead and put together my first bazooka anti-tank rocket crewman. Alright, so I've cut out all the pieces that I want to use for this figure. Let me go ahead and put the bazooka actually onto the figure. Unfortunately, this is going to be one of those figures where the 2 arms are separate pieces. So, I mean, I appreciate it when they're on one piece, but hey, sometimes they can't do that. One thing I definitely like to make sure of is to make sure that the weapon is at a proper angle to the ground. You don't want the rocket hitting the dirt 10 feet in front of the gunner. So make sure that it's level with the base. Now I gotta get the other arm on there. Now, to prevent floating gun syndrome, what I often do is I put glue on the shoulder and then I put glue on the hand, because I don't know exactly where on the weapon the hand is gonna wind up. I mean, you can always look at the picture, but you know, we all know that sometimes that's not exactly how it works out. This way, we hope everything comes together, maybe even on the first try? Okay, maybe not on the first try. We're getting closer. So you want the, of course, the shoulder fixed on the torso where there's no visible lines. And as we see there, we want that left hand cupping the right firing hand, the trigger hand, on the actual rocket weapon. That way the guy has a good steady platform from which he can discharge his rocket. Alright, now we're going to add on his backpack with e-tool, his canteen with fighting knife, and of course his helmet so that he knows which way he's sending that rocket. You know, it tends to help. Okay, so here's our first bazooka gunner. He's ready to go. The only thing I might do later on is come back and add some additional web gear when I finish the whole box and I see what I have left over. But for now, he's ready to join our first rifleman there. And for my next step, I'm going to go ahead and make some choices and finish up these other 4 figures, thus completing the first sprue. Again, there's 6 figures per sprue. There are some different choices I'm going to have to make with these other 4 figures, and then moving on into later sprues, like, I'm not going to build, there's 5 sprues, I'm not going to build 5 bazooka gunners. That would be awesome, but completely unrealistic. I'm probably going to use some of those crouching figures, again, for officers or NCOs. We'll see as this process continues. Okay, so here I've got the first sprue more or less built. We've already gone over the bazooka gunner, and let's see, this next guy here. Okay, this guy is carrying the M1 carbine. Here is a BAR, which I didn't really build right. I picked the wrong arms for the wrong torso, so he's at that weird port arms pose. There is going to be an NCO with his Thompson submachine gun. Here's a rifleman with his M1 Garand, and another rifleman with the M1 Garand. Okay, here's that one figure that I wasn't terribly happy with. This is no fault of the kit at all, it's just me failing to dry fit my pieces ahead of time. But the way the stock of the weapon and his elbow interact with his hip and his thigh, it kind of forces the BAR up in that weird kind of a port arms configuration, which is weird for a BAR. I'll just have to fix that on future sprues. Speaking of future sprues, again, remember these pieces where a figure is loading the rocket. So bazooka teams were always organized as teams, as two-man teams. So you had a bazooka gunner and then you would have an A gunner. They give you the pieces for that. There's the arm loading the rocket, and down to the lower left you see the little shoulder bag that's carrying still more rockets. Bear that in mind when you're building your force. Okay, I've gone ahead and cut all of the basic poses out of all of the sprues and glue them down to the rest of the bases. So now I have at least the beginnings of all 30 figures kind of started, at least. From here on out, it's just going to be making some choices as far as equipment so that my platoon comes out more or less historically accurate, at least in a very basic sense. So I know I'm going to want at least a couple more bazookas. I'm going to need a couple of NCOs, at least one guy designated as a lieutenant. I'm just going to have to sort of plan out what pieces I use and finish building out the rest of these figures. So I've got a bit of a long night ahead of me. I would also like to get some primer on these figures to hide some of that white glue flash. That always gets hidden by the primer, but you guys don't need to look at that. Alrighty. It has been a bit of a journey. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning now, but here we are at the end of the build. I have put everything together more or less the way I want it, and I've even had time to put a light coat of primer on there, if for no other reason than to just, again, hide those glue burns that were showing up white on some of the figures. Again, primer and paint always covers that stuff, but you guys don't want to look at that. We're trying to make a somewhat nice video here. So yeah, we went ahead and covered that up. So let's go through some of the choices. This is my lieutenant. I went ahead and of course armed him with the Thompson submachine gun. And he's also going to be carrying a pistol somewhere. Oh, don't tell me I forgot to give him his pistol. Hold on. Oh, phew. Okay, there it is. Alright, so he's got his M1911A1 pistol there in its holster, and he's got a little musette bag over his shoulder. Maybe he's carrying extra maps in there. So he's going to be designated and decaled and so on as my platoon leader. I went ahead and built a small weapons team here. So I've got 2 bazooka gunners. They're very obvious. And then I also made sure that each of my bazookas gunners has an A gunner. So you see the A gunner here. He's clearly carrying a spare rocket, and he also has that shoulder bag that's carrying more rockets for the anti-tank weapon. And then this little 4-man team here has a 5th man added to it. That is probably going to be a corporal. It's some kind of NCO that's in charge of the weapons team. So, being a small unit leader, he, again, does get the pistol and the Thompson submachine gun, along with all the basic stuff. The fighting knife, the canteen, the backpack with the entrenchment tool sort of hanging out the back there. After that, as you can see, I've got 3 squads of 8 men, each of them led by another NCO, probably a sergeant. So, yep, there's his pistol. Again, you saw where he was carrying the Thompson. So, all 3 guys, they're in slightly different poses, but they're all carrying the same basic weapons. And again, 8-man squads. The first man, besides the sergeant in each of the squads, is a Browning automatic rifleman, or a BAR gunner. This was a light support weapon, very, very common with US troops in World War II. It's kind of what they had before the M60 or the SAW or anything like that. There are some other support options that we'll talk about a little bit later. But for now, the other 6 men in each of the squads are riflemen. They are either carrying the classic M1 Garand, like this figure here, or the smaller and lighter M1 carbine that we see there. That gets a lot more common in late war, and you see them all over the place in the Korean War. But yeah, they included them in the kit, so I definitely wanted to use some of them here in my figure build. So yeah, everyone's got at least 1 canteen, if not 2, extra ammunition pouches. The only thing I didn't use were the bandoliers, probably because the bandoliers probably should have gone on before I started putting arms and weapons on there, but that's okay. For now, this kit is more or less built, and I'm pretty happy with the results, I'm not going to lie. Historically speaking, the only thing that's really missing here, and this is probably just another kit you have to buy from Warlord, I don't have any 30 caliber Brownings, medium machine guns. They definitely would have been either included or attached to this force. That's just going to be something else that you have to get in a different kit. And that's pretty much all we have for you today, folks. Thanks very much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. Please remember to hit that notification bell. Also, please consider joining the Sitrep Podcast Discord. There is an auto-accept invitation link to our Discord in the description of this video. Join our community, see what everybody's up to, and best of all, show us what's happening on your hobby table. But for now, this is Oriskany Jim with the Sitrep Podcast. We are rounds complete for another episode, and as always, Tango Mike for watching.